Hey guys, James Leach here again, and we're going to go through our first rental property with you. We're going to talk about the what, why, where, when, and how of our first rental property. It's here in Arizona, in Phoenix, and here we go. Let's get to it. So the first thing is the what. So this property, this house, we lived in for almost 10 years. It's a 2-story, 4-bedroom, 3-bath house with a den, and it had a nice loft, and it was a good-sized backyard. Beautiful house in a suburb of Phoenix. It's a house we lived in for 10 years, and we decided to put it up for rent. All right, number 2 is the where. So this property is in a suburb of West Phoenix. It's in a great neighborhood, low crime area. We didn't have but one neighbor, so we had one neighbor on one side of us. We had a nice big open green belt on the other side of us, and it was a low crime neighborhood. And this was a property that we thought was going to be growing in one of the cities that was up and coming. I knew a lot of stuff was going to be developed around it along with the community, so I knew this house was going to provide some value in the future. I just didn't know how much or when that we were going to see the fruit of that community growing and the equity and everything in that house. So number 3 is the when. So this house we bought in 2007, right before the market crashed. We knew that there was going to be tremendous growth in this community. Is why I chose the area I did to build a house and buy a house. I knew, or I thought I knew at that time, that there was going to be a huge outdoor mall being developed there and being put in there, because I had been part of the design team that had done a lot of the infrastructure for that mall. You know, designing all the underground, designing the power, you know, knowing that there was going to be something big in that area. I didn't know exactly what. Well, since then the mall never took place, but they put other shops there. They put a movie theater, they put a Target, and you know, the community has really grown since 2007. But at that point in time, we knew that that was going to be where we wanted to plant our first house, you know, or really our second house, but our first rental property, unbeknownst to us that we were going to rent it out. As I said before, we lived in that house 10 years and we rented it out in 2017. And at that time, I had no knowledge of what I was doing. I just knew I needed to rent that house because I couldn't afford to sell it. I didn't have enough equity, and it was sentimental to me. We had a lot of memories in that house, so there was a sentimental aspect to that house. We watched that house being built. You know, my kids would write down little things on the studs. We wrote on the walls before the walls were up, you know, and things of that nature. Put little trinkets within the walls that, you know, we made it ours, and that was a property that, you know, had a lot of sentimental value at that time for that property, and hopefully I want to keep that house for forever and pass it down to my kids, because that house, you know, I would like to see stay within our family. So number 4 is the why. Why did we decide to rent that house? Well, again, like I said, that house had some sentimental value. I didn't really want to let go of it. Plus, we weren't in a financial position with that house to let it go in 2017. It still didn't have the equity from the wake of the 2008 housing crash to be able to sell that house, to have even break even on it. I would have had to short sale that house just to get away from it. Well, we were in a position to where we could move out of that house, we moved into a fifth wheel at an RV park, and we were able to save money to buy our next rental property or buy our next house, was what our mentality was then. And so again, like I said before, I really didn't know what I was doing with the renting. I just knew that I couldn't sell it, didn't have the money or the equity in it to sell it, so we decided to rent it. another reason for this property is that, you know, I wanted it to be like a legacy for my children. I wanted them to be able to pass down a piece of property to them, you know, whether it be when I retire, when I move on, or whatever. You know, I wanted this property to be for them, and hopefully that's the way it'll stay. You know, it's been a good rental for us. We've made some good money on it, and you know, I'd like to leave it to my kids, or you know, have it to be part of the business that maybe this rental business takes off. Who knows? And they get to be, that's part of their chunk of this business. So who knows? Like I said, I'm new at this. I'm just going along day by day, and this property was really what got me started into real estate investing. So, number 5, the how. How was I gonna rent this property? I didn't know anything about renting properties. So, you know, some of the things that I had to figure out, and at a very small basis by Googling some information or anything, I hadn't educated myself, I hadn't read any books. I was just going into this green, guns a-blazing, if you would. So I had to figure out, well, could I rent it and still pay off the mortgage? You know, I had to look at rent versus mortgage payments, because I really couldn't afford to keep making those mortgage payments. But if I moved out of the house, obviously, and moved into somewhere else, but I wanted to see if I could do it. So, you know, another thing we looked at was cash flow. Would it cash flow? You know, then I didn't know, but hey, what is this term cash flow? I had no idea what that meant. I was just going to say, hey, could I possibly make money off of this? Another thing was property management. Was I going to manage the property myself or pay somebody to do it? I really didn't want to manage it myself. Plus, I had no idea what entailed the property management for this property. Some other costs I had to look at was insurance. How was I going to insure the property? Did I need a special insurance? I didn't know at that time, you know, but yes, I needed landlord's insurance. I needed homeowner's insurance, some type of warranty insurance. So what we did is, you know, we got the proper insurance through our insurance agent, and we looked into putting a warranty service throughout all of our appliances. That includes the AC unit. It includes, you know, every major piece of equipment in the house. And that's a big benefit to us, because we've used it numerous times and haven't had to replace those appliances. And it's a small fee. It's like, I don't know, 40, 50 bucks a month for this service that has saved us thousands of dollars in the long run. Another thing we had to look at was renovations. What would it take to get that property rent ready? And could I do most of it myself? I believed that I could. And, you know, we had to repaint some of the rooms because we had some outlandish paint colors in some of my girls' rooms. But we repainted them to a standard color, something neutral, and that was something that we had to do, and was suggested by our property management company to do that. You know, that was another thing. The benefits of having, for me, the benefits of having a property management company, you know, far outweighed me trying to do it myself. Especially being green, I didn't know what I was doing. So, you know, they helped me along this process. Some of the other costs I had to look at were the initial costs to get started. You know, the startup costs for the property management fees, you know, what it would cost to get somebody in, what the property management provided. These are all things I had to look at to ensure that I was getting the best deal for my money. I had to look into, you know, how was I going to pay my taxes? What taxes did I need to pay, because this was going to be an income generator for me. So going through an external property management company really helped me define all that and take care of my state taxes that the rental property was generating income for me. I need to take care of those state taxes as well. So, you know, those were some of the cost and associated with the how that I was going to do this. I did end up, fixing up a lot of things before we had tenants in there, and it really made a big difference. It was a clean house, rent ready, and it really shined on the market. And that's the way I like to do things. I like to get things top notch, put some effort into them at first, so I don't have to keep going out there every week and fixing something else and fixing something else. Put my hard work into it initially and let the property speak for itself for the next 5 to 10 years. Now obviously you can't, it doesn't always work out that way. There are circumstances, we had a water heater go out, we had a washer and dryer, or maybe it was just a washer go out. We had a leak behind one of our bathtubs that was on the second story, so it was leaking down into the first story. I mean, we had some stuff go bad that we couldn't foresee, but I mean, having those warranties, having the insurance, all of that covered us and saved us thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in the long run. Okay, and the sixth thing we're going to talk about is some lessons learned, some of the things that I learned on that property and through my education, just looking back. And again, guys, this is, I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm still making mistakes, but you know what? I'm moving forward. I'm educating myself continually, constantly, as much as I can, trying to just soak in as much as I can, as a sponge. But getting back to the property, some of the lessons learned, I would say, would be, market research on rents. I did none of that. I just relied on what the property manager told me I could rent the house for, and that was it. And it ended up working out. We got a good rent amount. We got good tenants, and their first lease was a 2-year lease. That's something that I probably won't do in the future, but I mean, you got to know your market for your rents. You want to do your research, see what other houses, other properties are renting for in that area, and know how much you can get for your property, and talk with your property manager and do a little coercing there and get the best deal that you can get. Maybe it's not a renter's market, maybe it's a market that there isn't that many renters and you have to drop your price a little bit. But know that cash flow isn't your only money making opportunity. You're making money through taxes by paying interest on the mortgage payment. If you have a mortgage payment, you're getting equity in the house, hopefully. Things like that make renting your property a good deal, rather than just how much cash can I get at the end of the day. Warranties, I didn't know, or how to go about getting a warranty service. Well, once we found, a good one, now I'm not promoting them by any means, but American Home Shield, where they come through and they set up warranties for all your appliances and everything. That has saved us a ton. That was something that I had to learn the hard way and to get involved in that. The benefits of having a warranty service, by having this service, outweighed the cost of having to replace these appliances and things of that nature. So another thing was, for me, was not doing walkthroughs. So we had tenants, we've had the same tenant the whole time. There was a time where they were looking at moving out but didn't. They renewed for another 6 months, but I had never done a walkthrough. I haven't done a walkthrough on that property since 2017 till this year. I didn't know, I didn't educate myself to do walkthroughs, see how the property's holding up, making sure that they're not, have a meth lab or something inside your house, or subleasing. Make sure they're not renting other rooms out that they shouldn't be. Things of that nature that, that was a lesson learned to me, to do the walkthroughs. And the property manager will do all that for you if you set it up. And they're pretty good at taking a good account of things that are damaged, so you can get a feel for your property as it's being rented out. Another lessons learned would be the rental agreements. You guys go through your rental agreements. I had no idea what I was reading or what I was looking at. You know, I grasped it a little bit. You know, I have pretty good common sense, but I didn't know exactly what some of these terms meant. And through educating myself on what rental agreements were, I'd read through my rental agreement and now I have a better understanding of what I'm reading. Go through your rental agreements and make sure that you have everything in there that you want to be in there. Pet size, pest control, who does the pest control, who's responsible for the landscape, who's responsible for, you know, minor things. Can you put a satellite dish up on the side of your house? Can you drill holes in your doors? You know, things of that nature. You know, some of these things that may or may not be in the rental agreements are things that we had to learn in the long haul. You know, but that's it. There's a lot of lessons learned to be taken from, you know, having our first rental property, and hopefully, you know, I've become smarter for it. My tenants have understood, you know, their landlord a little better for it, and now we can incorporate those things, you know, those lessons learned in the rental agreement and have a good relationship between the landlord and the tenant because of it. All right, guys, and here we are, last but not least, the benefits of being able to rent that property. For me, here we are in 2021. I've had great tenants. I've had great renters throughout this time. Same renters the whole time. They've been great people to work with. But the benefits for me were, here we are in 2021. Now the house has just grown, as you guys can imagine, if you're following the market, grown immensely. I have a huge amount of equity in the house right now. And from 2017, if I were to short sell that house, I would have never had that. The equity is there. And all because of my tenants. My tenants have paid for that equity. You guys need to understand that. I didn't pay for that equity. That's equity that somebody else has paid for. You hear the term using OPM, other people's money. Well, this is me using other people's money to build my wealth. The equity in that house, you know, is well over $100,000. And I wouldn't have been able to have that if I would have sold it or short sold it, pardon me. You know, it wouldn't have been there. The cash flow I've made month to month to month, you know, now recently I've started to look at rental markets, and my rental markets in that area are crazy. So crazy that I can't raise the rent on that tenant to do a market adjustment to make it fair and equitable. I have to do small chunks because it's grown so much. But we've been able to raise, you know, rents one time and you know, get a little bit extra cash flow from this property, and it's been great. That's a benefit. Also, I believe I mentioned earlier, the tax benefits. You know, having a mortgage on that house, on that property, the tenant is basically paying my taxes because you get to write off the interest on that property, and it helps you on your taxes. So I'm not making that tax payment. You know, my tenant is. Again, other people's money. Somebody else is paying that chunk of my taxes for me. And it's a great benefit to have a rental property. So those are some of the benefits, you know, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We've walked through the what, where, why, when, and how of my first rental property. You know, again, these videos are to help you guys become educated about real estate investment and to walk through my investment adventures, right? So, you know, I'm glad you guys are watching these videos. Hopefully you learned something today. If you did, hit that like button, smash that like button, kill that like button, and subscribe to our channel. And we're going to be going through our other property. We just bought another investment property, a condo, again in the Phoenix area. And you know, again, someday this house here will become a rental property, and we'll walk you through that investment as well. So stay tuned. We thank you guys again for watching. We thank you for subscribing if you subscribed, and thank you for hitting that like button.